listeners, thanks for joining in. Welcome to another HRO Today educational podcast. In this series, we aim to provide you the latest workforce management approaches and best practices in HR. I'm Debbie Bolla, Vice President and Editorial Director of HRO Today magazine. The Great Resignation is quickly becoming a buzzword in the HR industry. Many organizations are facing a looming talent shortage with millions of people leaving the workforce. Right now, one of the main priorities of HR leaders is to ensure they have the right strategies in place to retain their employees. Today, I have an expert here with me to share additional insight on how HR leaders can leverage the right tools and approaches to provide their workforce with a culture that encourages them to stay. Chris French is Executive Vice President of Customer Strategy at Workhuman. Workhuman helps bring social recognition and gratitude to the workplace, serving 6 million employees globally and allowing managers and colleagues to celebrate each other's achievements and efforts through the Workhuman cloud platform. Chris oversees the end-to-end experience for current and future customers, as well as many critical aspects of Workhuman's business, including customer success, customer experience, strategy and consulting, Workhuman research and analytics, and the Workhuman certified program. Chris routinely advises leadership teams at the world's largest organizations on building cultures and achieving measurable results through a more human workplace. He has spent the last 10 years helping companies engage their employees on a global scale while delivering real business results. Chris, thanks for joining me today. The last year and a half has changed the world of work forever. What factors are driving the Great Resignation, and do you anticipate another one?
Well, thank you, Debbie, and thank you for having me. And it's funny that you say the Great Resignation. I think I've started in my own head to start calling it the Great Talent Swap. I think that if everybody's leaving, then that means that there will be places for people to go. And when I talk to CHROs and other HR leaders, that's the way that they're thinking about this. And you're asking me, do I think there'll be another? Well, we just did our latest Human Workplace Index study of 1,000 full-time U.S. workers, and 32% anticipate leaving in the near term, 48% of those as soon as possible. So I don't think that we've come to the end of that. Look, this has been a once-in-a-lifetime event for a lot of us. And people are just reevaluating their lives. Like, do I really want to spend an hour driving to and from an office every day? Are these the people that I want to spend most of my time with? Is this the work that I want to be doing? And there's a lot of people who are just looking to renegotiate the social contract. I'm no longer willing to do the things I was willing to do before in order to get the same thing back. And so given that, it's kind of all up for grabs. And when we talk to HR executives, they're thinking to themselves, everybody's looking for the greener grass. And I guess the question, given that this is not ending anytime soon, is, are you going to be that greener grass? And what are the things that we can be specifically doing right now to make sure that we are that greener grass, that we're re-recruiting the people that we've already recruited, and we can attract the talent that is going to be out in the market because of this great talent swap.
So what can organizations do to ensure they avoid attrition?
We have this saying here at Workhuman that without the human, it's just work. Again, if you think about what the causes are for this great talent swap, that people are reevaluating it in their own context. Obviously, at Workhuman, we've been focused on the power of connecting humans at work, and predominantly through recognition. We know that people who feel like they've been seen and thanked for the work that they do at least 5 times a year are 22% less likely to leave the organization. It's a reminder to people that they are being seen, that they belong. People leave maybe the employer that's on their pay stub, but they also then have to leave all the people that they work with. And right now it's not easy for us to remind people that there are other humans that they work alongside because they don't see them necessarily every single day. And we have to replace things that are no longer easy to do, like people celebrating that someone has gotten married, has bought a new house, a new puppy, those types of things. Fostering those human connections, making sure that we see the humans, and then having regular conversations with people. I think that you cannot go weeks and weeks and weeks and months without talking to people. The world changes too quickly right now, the world outside of work and the world inside of work. And there has to be this regular cadence of discussion between managers and their people, between people and mentors, between each other, that says, are we on the right track? We have to be able to take the cues from talking to people. Is this person in a crisis situation? Is this person sort of drifting away from us, et cetera? So those regular conversations. And when you put all these pieces together, that you're regularly thanking and telling people that they've done good work and what good work looks like. It's a constant reminder that good work, good stuff is happening in the company. You're doing things to foster the connections between the humans, and you're having regular discussions about how are we doing, what are our priorities, etc. Well, then you have a culture that people will want to stay. You have a greener pasture where you have more connection. It's harder for people to pull away from that. It's harder for them to make the case in their own head that I should find a greener pasture somewhere else. And it's interesting, I just heard Malcolm Gladwell speaking. His talk was around the idea that performance is culture. And performance is also talent and strategy and those types of things. But perhaps today, more than ever, performance is culture, because you have to be able to create the right environment for people to want to be in and to succeed. Otherwise, they're going to leave. So we need to look at these other systemic things that we can do to create the culture that makes your place of work the greener pasture.
And in what ways can technology help?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's almost counterintuitive. When I said, we want to create human connections, a lot of times when people hear technology helping, they go, that's exactly the opposite of what we're talking about. But in reality, the ways that we were able to foster that kind of culture in the past by everybody being in the same location, and some of this just being natural human interaction, we don't have those avenues anymore. It was interesting. I was talking to a French executive a couple of days ago, and what he was saying was the cafe where people went for lunch every day was such a huge part of their culture, where work got done, where people connected, where they unwound, where real, honest discussions happened. And they didn't realize how much that contributed to their culture until it was gone, until they couldn't use that anymore. And so people would come to them and say, oh, well, maybe what we can do is give people food vouchers and they can go get food. And they realized that that actually wasn't an answer to the real value that cafe brought, which was human connection. And so there are tools, obviously at Workhuman we focus on recognition tools, but you can take cues from the good parts of social media, not the bad parts, but the good parts, and focus on positivity to be able to share those stories and drive connection between the humans at work, to share stories of what good looks like, to share stories of these other life events and celebrations and milestones and promotions and things that are happening. And if you're doing that on a regular basis, you're building essentially this culture hub. You can use these technologies to build a culture hub, a place where people want to go, which for most HR organizations, a lot of the technology that's used is more workflow oriented, to make work easier, to know where our resources are. But there's a whole host of technologies that are focused on bringing people together, celebrating what's working, celebrating the good, telling stories. And those are the kinds of things that fill the gaps that exist because we don't work in the same office anymore. And even as we just start to move towards things like a hybrid workplace, we're never really going to go back to the way we were. Some people will always be separate. So you're going to need a new set of tools and technology to fill the gaps that will now exist forever. So I think that being very purposeful about how can I use technology to fill those gaps and use it and focus it on bringing people together and reminding them that they're part of something bigger, that they're part of a team, and that they themselves are seen.
And how can organizations increase retention and engagement in this new dynamic workforce?
I would think about it in three levels. At the individual level, it's ensuring that every person who works in your organization, you have the mindset that we're re-recruiting them, so they feel seen, appreciated, and connected to the other people in the organization. So what are we doing to do that at the individual level? The second level, I would say, would be at the team or organizational level. It's a reminder that you're part of a team. So it's not just thank you for the good work you're doing, but a reminder that you're a part of a team. That can come through celebrating things that happen when projects finish, or that a team in particular made it through a tough year, or got a new product released, or went the whole month with no safety issues. But that idea of reminding people on a regular basis they're part of a team. Oh, by the way, we did these team exercises together. Here's all the pictures from that, from the virtual cooking class that we did together. Those kinds of things. Just a reminder at the team and organizational level that you're part of a team. This is what good looks like. And by the way, good is happening on a regular basis. The third I would say is that everybody who's listening to this podcast, has had one of the most difficult jobs in the world in the last few years, beyond obviously frontline workers in healthcare, et cetera. But a lot of the people that are on listening to this, we're the people taking care of the people in the workplaces. So not only did they have to find ways to work out the logistics of safely getting work done, but we're also then asking them to carry the load for solving all these other problems around the Great Resignation, like, do you have the right culture? And is this a place where people are going to want to come and work? And I think that that's an incredibly tall task to ask HR people alone to do. You have to be able to unlock the crowd, which is why a lot of these things like I've been talking about, like a culture hub, recognition programs, celebrating milestones, life events, those kinds of things. What they do is they employ the crowd to be part of the solution, that the employees themselves are part of the solution. And they always have been in a work environment. It wasn't the manager who wasn't there who saw that a person was down on a particular day and went and asked if they were okay. I mean, just mathematically speaking, the odds are that it's 5 times more likely that it would be a coworker that sees that or a peer than a manager. And so we don't necessarily have that in a workplace where people are distributed, but we have to create an environment where the crowd can be part of the solution as well. That's why all of these sort of culture-related programs that I've been talking about become incredibly important, because it doesn't just rely on HR to provide all the answers. It unlocks the power of the crowd. And I say all of that because that makes this task possible to do. It's way cheaper than retention bonuses. And we already know there's studies and studies and studies that say what this is going to do is drastically reduce the probability that people leave the organization, increase the probability that they're exhibiting the right behaviors, that they feel a sense of belonging, that they're part of something bigger than themselves, that they trust leadership. I mean, ultimately, that's what we're trying to do right now in the midst of all the things that are happening, which is have people feel that way. That becomes then the greener pasture, so your employees stay and you can attract other talent into your organization.
Thanks, Chris, for sharing those retention strategies. Until next time, listeners, I'm Debbie Bolla.